Hi, welcome to Ketobiography, formerly known as Less of Me Success Stories. I'm one of your hosts, Robin Dobbins. At Ketobiography, Natalie Shamp and I share inspiring stories of healing. We illuminate personal journeys that demonstrate the life-changing power of the ketogenic lifestyle, empowering our listeners with wisdom while building a thriving community. Hey, Natalie, tell us about our guest today.
Hi, Robin. Today's guest is a powerhouse, a mom, a wife, and an online transformational coach who's rewriting the rules of resilience. She's a dedicated mental health advocate who battled through the chaos of bipolar disorder and multiple sclerosis. To reclaim her life, her turning point was adopting the carnivore diet, a choice that dramatically improved her physical and mental well-being and sparked her mission to guide others towards their breakthroughs. Emily's story isn't polished or perfect, but it is brutally honest, and she is very honest about her setbacks. This is a testament to what is possible when you fight for yourself. Please welcome our guest, Emily Penton. Penton, I apologize. I said Peyton.
That's all right. That works. Oh man, thank you guys so much. I am so excited to be here. Just thanks for reaching out and thank you so much for sharing this message because I am one girl and I cannot reach the billions of people who need to hear this message.
That's exactly right. That's why we're sharing these stories. That's why we want to tell everybody that, look, this is possible. I want to scream it from the rooftops. And so we are going to turn it over to you and let you tell us your story. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So my story is a little bit different in that I started out in the mental health field. As a therapist. I have my master's in clinical counseling, and I was actually in grad school when I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So here I am going to save the world and help everybody. And I realized I'm the one that needs the help. And it was devastating to me to realize that I had this significant mental illness, and mine was bipolar disorder. And I did what everybody does, and in the mental health field, the narrative is, and it's almost like a badge of honor. But the narrative is take your medicine, take your medicine, take your medicine. I'm a good mental health patient. I take my medicine. And so I did. And I was on 900 milligrams of lithium, 80 milligrams of Prozac, 80 milligrams of Adderall, just to get out of bed every day. So I would take 40 milligrams in the morning and I would take 40 milligrams at noon. And then, of course, I needed Ambien to sleep at night because I was all jacked up on the meth that I was on, because I mean, that's what that is. And I was still not functioning. And it got worse. It got a lot worse. And the end of 2018, it turned into rapid cycling, which with bipolar disorder, you get cycles. So sometimes you get a break where you're just kind of like in neutral. And then sometimes you get where you are on drive and you are just like selling all of your things to go invest in a new purse company that's multi-level marketing, or you are divorcing your husband to go be with the man that you met online, or you are quitting your job. That's the typical manic bipolar disorder. Or you are in the depths of despair and you want to take your life and you can't answer the phone, you can't even do the dishes, you can't take a shower for days, you can't function. But mine went into rapid cycling, which meant I didn't know who I was going to be from one day to the next. And it even would happen within the day. I would have my morning clients, I'd be fine, knocking it out of the park. I'd hit 11 o'clock a.m. and all of a sudden I would have to reschedule the whole rest of my day because I had to go crawl in bed. I couldn't function. And so it became unethical. Like I was awesome. The 3 days a week or 2 days a week that I would work, my boss was like, "You're one of our best therapists. Like, just please stay, even if it's 2 days a week," because I could speak the language of the clients. Like, I understood where they were coming from, and I could translate for them the concepts, basically. So whenever this happened and I had to stop working, I moved in with my mom. And to move in with your mom at the age of 40, after you already have a career and you have your master's in clinical counseling, is like not just the bottom of the pit, it's like digging a hole. And the depression consumed me. I mean, it was everything I could do to get up every morning, get my son ready, get him to school, and then I would come right back to bed. And then I would set an alarm and I would wake up, pick him up from school and bring him home, feed him. And then as soon as he went to bed, I was out again. So I wasn't living, I wasn't functioning. But February 23rd of 2019, my brother reached out to me. And my brother's not really like a nice guy. Like, he's kind of like a prickly pear where, he's just kind of like awkward at the holiday table and stuff. And he's like, "How are you?" Not warm and fuzzy at all. But he reached out to me and acknowledged that I had mental illness and offered a solution. And that got my attention. I was like, "What? Like, my brother's being nice? Like, what is this world?" And so I paid attention. And thankfully, it was the first chapter of the audiobook from Amber O'Hearn. And I heard her story. And 10 years prior to that, she had resolved bipolar disorder herself. And I felt like the guy on Dumb and Dumber, where he's like, "You're telling me there's a chance." And that's all I needed, was that chance, that if it helped her 10 years ago, so that's a pretty good track record, 10 years, and she's like stable enough to write this book. And I jumped in. February 24th of 2019, I went from donuts, cakes, pies, pizzas, entire pizzas by myself, ice cream, fried chicken, beer, boxes of wine, ramen noodles, pasta, bread, all the things. And I just ate steaks, burgers, chicken wings, salmon, shrimp, fatty pork butt, bacon, sausage, and that was it. I didn't play around with cheese. I didn't play around with eggs. I didn't even play around with butter. I did ghee. I just jumped right in because, and this is the beautiful part, my bipolar disorder was my greatest tool in that moment, because we're all or nothing. So I didn't just tiptoe into the waters. I jumped, because that's what bipolar does. Like, we're just impulsive, and we're all or nothing. And I jumped in, and it was the best gamble of my life, because in April of 2019, I had my last manic or bipolar episode, and I was able to eventually taper off my psych meds. And with a psychiatrist, I had my psychiatrist for a long time. And my last psych med was September of 2019. I went back to work full time in June of 2019, and I've been working ever since. And a little bit of a tweak in my story is that 3 weeks into eating this way, I was hospitalized, not in the psych ward, but in the emergency department, because my throat stopped swallowing. So a logical person would go, "Okay, I started this all meat diet and now my throat stopped swallowing. I need to do something else." But there was this knowing in me that I knew I was on the right track. And they did an MRI and they did a lumbar puncture, and they found out that I had multiple sclerosis. And very soon after that, I couldn't walk without an assistive device, and I had delayed and slurred speech. So everything was against me. Like, I was either going to the psych ward or I was going to a nursing home, because nobody's going to sit here if I'm in diapers and take care of me, or I was going to take my own life. But I kept going with the animal meat and the animal fat. And my last MS symptom was May 9th of 2019. Now I can do CrossFit, I can hike, I can run. I've had no relapses, and I've had no medication for my multiple sclerosis. And that's my story.
So with MS, are there stages? I don't know a lot about MS as in a, scientific matter. Like, are there stages? And if so, were you at a very early stage, or were you, where were you?
Well, I actually, as soon as they said the word multiple sclerosis, I got to digging and I got to researching, and I realized that I'd had symptoms for 10 years. So I just didn't know. I had been to the doctor for all these symptoms, but it was like all these little pieces of the puzzle, and nobody ever put the puzzle together until it's called acute dysphagia. Just all of a sudden my throat stopped swallowing, and they did a swallow test and found out it wasn't mechanical, it was neurological. So my brain stopped telling my throat to swallow. And then that's when they found the lesions on my brain. And now I've had multiple MRIs, and the last MRI showed no new MS activity. And like I said, I've been able to walk and talk and been fine.
So really, your bipolar saved your life.
Yep.
In so many ways, right?
Absolutely.
I've heard you mention that your bipolar is your superpower.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. So tell us about how you feel like it's your superpower, like how you use it as a tool, and also how, because you're still a therapist. Sorry, maybe a two-part question. You're still a therapist. And how do you use this in, do you just work with primarily bipolar patients, or what is your practice like?
Yeah, so I went back to work full-time in June of 2019, back into the mental health field, thinking, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I'm going to be able to help so many more people. And I quickly realized that the insurance panels and the licensing board did not want me talking about food, because I am not a registered dietitian or a nutritionist. And that is out of my scope. I am supposed to stick to the treatment plan and only the treatment plan. And the treatment plan only allowed me to talk about the mental health things. Nowhere on my treatment plans was there even a spot for me to talk to them about food. So I realized really quick, I just don't belong here. And I said, you know what? Forget the letters behind my name. Call me a coach. Because I recognized also that my license limited me to Missouri. And so I could only practice in Missouri. But if I step out of that umbrella of the license, then I can go on, and I don't need the clout. I don't need the accolades. I don't need the certification and the recognition and I am my own proof and what I can do. And that's what I did. I started out actually doing it for free. I started helping severely mentally ill clients for free. And I just said, hey, do you mind if I share your story? I'll keep it anonymous. And so I just started, putting out stories and case studies. And now I have people who they will hire me right whenever their daughter or their loved one gets out of the psych ward and they've just had their second suicide attempt, and they'll have them come work with me. And then I'm able to, bring them back to life, and they're really able to realize that, like you said, the bipolar disorder and the mental illness is actually our superpower. It's just that it was unmanaged. Unmanaged, it is like there is a literal like path of destruction. Failed marriages, jobs that I've quit, broken friendships. I'm sure damage from my child. He had to go to therapy. I had to go to therapy. There's so much destruction because it was not managed. But now that my bipolar disorder is managed, I'm able to utilize it as my superpower to help people.
And then curiously, when you went back and had another scan and they found that you didn't have any more lesions, did anybody say, oh my God, this never happens? What did you do? Tell us all about it. We're going to publish you in the next clinical trials.
Natalie, you know that didn't happen. No, I actually was told that I was being reckless and that I would be in a wheelchair within 10 years. So that was 6 years ago that I was told that. And I literally messaged Michaela Peterson in the hospital parking lot. And I said, this is what my neurologist just said. Do you think I'm being reckless? And she was like, number one, this is not medical advice. You know, she had to cover her butt. She goes, but Emily, you have no symptoms. And she was like, whenever you have symptoms, then, you know, we'll reconsider if you need to take the medication or not or anything. She was like, but no, like you're not being reckless. What you're doing is working. And the MRI showed it. They showed my first MRI to my second MRI, my lesions reduced by 50%. And he actually said that. The neurologist said, your lesions have reduced by 50% in size. And I was like, okay, I'm doing something right.
Well, I guess what gets me is that how often do they see that? And right, I guess they're not going to tell us that. We're just the patients, right?
No, I got nothing but resistance from them. And it was so funny because the nurses were so nice whenever I first went in, like my first appointments and stuff. And then I guess they like put it in my chart or something, because the second visit, like as soon as I talked to the neurologist, the second visit, the nurses, you could tell that they were like trying to not make eye contact, and you know, and they were like, are you still on your restrictive diet? Like they're trying to like note it. And they referred me to a nutritionist. I just happened to not make that appointment, but
Probably the best thing you ever did. And then to your bipolar, you said that you were hospitalized, correct?
I was hospitalized like way before, in 2001.
I got that one mixed up with when you had to move back in with your mother.
That was the multiple sclerosis I was hospitalized for.
Well, I apologize.
No, that's okay. That's what I was saying. I was hospitalized, not in the psych ward, but in the emergency department because I couldn't swallow. And it wasn't mental health that I was in the hospital. It was my physical health, which was crazy to me.
That is crazy. And so I guess I wanted to hear more about the fact that I think I've heard you talk about hallucinations, and that's how far deep for some reason I thought that I got confused. So can you tell us about how that started? Maybe a couple of examples. Not how that started. You probably don't know how it started.
No. I mean, I have had 2 episodes of psychosis. And so psychosis is very different than bipolar disorder. It's different than the typical cycles of mania or depression. And I had an episode of psychosis in 2001, and I was hospitalized for that. And I recently had a psychosis in 2024. And thankfully, I am so grateful. My family knew what to do because they've been watching my YouTube, and they recognized that something was off, and they put a big old plate of fatty beef brisket in front of me. I ate it, and then within an hour, I was just like, I think I just went through psychosis. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, what have you been eating? And I was eating honey. Honey. Like, and I'm not saying that honey is going to make you go into psychosis. I'm saying people with my mind, people with brains that are tweaked a little bit towards bipolar disorder and towards psychosis. I was eating like copious amounts of honey because it was carnivore, because it was from bees. And I allowed it in the beginning of 2020. No, the end of 2023. That's when I allowed it in. And I had already been carnivore for like 5 years. I had already mastered all this. There was no reason for me to start having honey, but I just did. And then it ended up in psychosis. And thankfully, I was able to get out of that. But yeah, that was crazy. That was definitely hearing voices. I thought I was a mermaid. Like it was just like a whole nother reality. It was quite a trip. But I will say that this psychosis versus the 2001 psychosis was much better in that it wasn't as dark, but it scared my family. And so, I would never want to do that to them again. But it was only 3 days.
I think Robin has a question.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you saw. So, you don't really know my story at all. So it's kind of funny when you talk, it's like very, very, very similar. So the only time that I've ever had any depression symptoms after changing the way I eat was because I was eating a sweet potato every day for an experiment. And my depression came roaring back and took months, even after stopping that sweet potato. It took months to get rid of it. And I think, like you talking about the honey and talking about the sweet potato, it's so important. Some people can bring some things back and they don't really have an issue, but it's definitely something to be aware of, that like it's a symptom remission. Like all of that's still in there. You're still wired for it. Whatever it was that you needed to trigger to start it off in the first place is still there for most people. And I think that gets overlooked in the conversation. Have you found that with any of the people that you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. And so what we do is we don't call it a diet or anything. We do a 45-day experiment. And because what that does is that kind of like, it gives that rebellious teenage, I do what I want, to just kind of like sit back for a second. Like, we're not taking away your donuts for the rest of your life. All we're doing is we're doing an experiment. And I really like that because I'm so sick of the whole diet thing where people are shaming themselves. And so if you think about it, a scientist is observing and then documenting. A scientist is not judging and punishing. And so we've got to get away from judging and punishing, because especially if people are suffering from mental illness, they already feel like the worst person in the room. They already feel like useless and worthless and hopeless. And so all we're doing is we're doing an experiment. And so what I have found is that if I can get my clients into that 45 days, then I have them reintroduce one new food a week. Not all the things, one new food a week. And then they will reintroduce sweet potato. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm having all these thoughts that I'm horrible and I'm stupid and I'm worthless. And I'm like, maybe it's the sweet potato. They do their own experiment. They are their own scientist. They're not sitting here going, well, Emily said I can't have sweet potatoes, so I'm not going to have sweet potatoes. They are doing it. And so it's genuine. It's a genuine process, and they are taking responsibility for their own health. And yeah, white potatoes, sweet potatoes, honey. It's amazing the things that will cause inflammation and depression.
Yeah, precisely. And so you said that you are coaching. coaching now to use that word so that you could be a little more free with what you are able to do. So are people finding you for the specific reason of possibly changing how they eat in order to heal, or is it just something that they stumble into after they start working with you?
No, pretty much everybody that comes to me, they're they've tried everything else. They've tried every medication, they've tried everything, and they're at their wits' end. And then I say, let's try this. And uh, one of the things that I find is that it's very important for me to not put my story on them. There are some people that thrive on keto, that thrive on rice, that thrive on quinoa. I don't even know how to say it. Quinoa. Um,
Quinoa.
yeah. And so everybody's on their own story. The only thing that I will not work with somebody is if they refuse to get rid of the sugar and the processed food. If you're not going to do that, it's really, we're just on a hamster wheel. Like, I can't help you. You've already done all you can do with the medication and the talk therapy and everything else. If you continue to put that inflammation in your brain and in your body, I can't help you. But I don't say you have to go 100% carnivore. I just say, let's start. Let's start for 45 days, reducing or removing the Doritos and the ramen noodles and the soda.
I think that's a beautiful way to handle that. Before we started rolling, you were talking about that a little bit, about these nuggets. Like, I'd like you to say that now because it was really good. But just these actionable points. I think another thing that I think gets overlooked. We are so overwhelmed with information. It's a very exciting time for metabolic psychiatry. I definitely don't want to say anything ill about it, but there's just so much just coming at us constantly. I feel a need for community, and we don't really have that. I think it's coming, but we're working on it, and it's moving faster than we can even keep up. So when you're working with people, what is like your go-to on how you get action pretty quickly with people?
Yeah. So, basically I do it like I did where I was a therapist, where I do an intake first. And I read the room. What are your supports? Like, do you have a supportive home life? Do you have YouTube? Do you have do you have the resources to go buy your own groceries? Do you have the capacity to be able to cook? Are all of our meals going to be DoorDash? Like, I just kind of feel them out and where they're at. And then I let them write their own food list. And the way I do it is I do it in ironically, a green list. I do it like a stoplight: green, yellow, and red. And so on the green list, those are the foods that we can eat all day, every day. We don't have to limit it, because I think that's also very important, not to restrict, because your brain is already going through so much. You need to feed and nourish your brain, not deprive your brain. And so we have all this list of green foods. They're go foods. And then we have the list on the the foods on the red list. And those are foods that we are setting aside this 45 days, that we are not going to touch those foods: Doritos, soda, cakes, pies, pizzas, pasta, like all the things. And then we have the yellow list. And that's the safety net. That's for the day when your boyfriend breaks up with you, or your boss yells at you at work, or you have a flat tire, or you're on your period, or whatever. Like, those are your safety net foods. Those are the foods that you wouldn't eat all day, every day, but you'll allow yourself to eat whenever you are just feeling kind of human. You're not on your A game, but you're not going to go off into eating an entire cake by yourself. And so I have found whenever I just make things very simple, very elementary, very basic. And what I do, I love Chris Palmer. Love Chris Palmer. Like his book, Brain Energy, please go listen to it. It's amazing. It's phenomenal. Everybody should read it if they have the capacity for it. But he can't hold people's hands across the world. And so what I get to do is I get to hold people's hands and I get to have a message with them. I use a video messaging app called Marco Polo, and they are able to, I don't care if it's 3:00 in the morning, they can send me a message. I'm not going to get it until the next day, but they can put a pin in it. And so I had this one client, she goes, I feel like you moved in with me. And I was like, that's what I want. I want you to know that, like, because when I was a therapist, it'd be like, I'd see them once every week, once every 2 weeks. I get to the end of the 45 minutes. They just poured out all of their childhood trauma on the table. And I'm like, okay, pack it up. Time's over. Like, ugh. And so I get to really jump in the trenches with them. And I get to even talk about the emotions that are coming up, where they're remembering things in their childhood or they're having that self-sabotage. So that has been very important to me because it's almost like we don't know what we've got until we get there. We have no idea what's going to kind of bubble up to the surface until we get into the trenches. And so I just make it real simple. 45 days, and here's the red list, here's the yellow list, here's the green list. And then we talk. We talk every day. And you have somebody in your back pocket who's going to be able to process some of these things with you. And that's what I found works the best. That's the most effective.
Yeah, I love that. I can see how that's effective. So when you go into coaching, because this is kind of I coach now as well. So this was my thought when I went into coaching, is that I want everybody to graduate. So going back to your doctors who were mad at you for healing your MS because you weren't going to be their patient anymore, is this how you look at how you coach now? Like, you want people to graduate? Are you having people that are able to move on and just be themselves and live without it all anymore?
100%, 100%. My favorite was I got this call one day from this guy, and he was on day 30, and he goes, "You tricked me." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What's going on?" And he was like, "You said when I got to 45 days, I could reintroduce one new food a week. I feel so damn good. I don't want to introduce anything." And I was like, yes, like that's it. And then I had this one girl who came like literally from the psych ward. Like, I talked to her the next day after she got out. She got done with me, working with me for 2 months. She had a car, she had a job, she was moving out into her own apartment. Her parents were like, "What did you do? Like, this is amazing." And all we did was remove sugar and processed foods. And she was doing it all on her own.
Yes, that's absolutely amazing. And we certainly need more practitioners like you out in the field, because it's a missing piece. We can't continue to practice the way we have been, where it's like, oh, you fit in this category of things, so you have this disorder and these are your list of medications. It's just that doesn't work anymore. And if people aren't seeing that, then they're just not paying attention, because it's for real. There's people out there that are healing, and it's all over the place. You just got to know where to look.
Yeah. And also, we can't have like, a little, I'm not trying to minimize anybody, but somebody who's just a regular health coach to deal with somebody with borderline personality disorder. Or schizophrenia, or even bipolar disorder, or severe depression. Like, I can't tell you how many clients I have had cuss me out and hang up on me. And then they come back and they're like, that was really unprofessional. And I'm like, that's what I'm here for. Like, that's why I am in this role, to get into the trenches for you to bloody me up. Like, let's go. Bloody me up instead of bloodying yourself up and then bloodying your spouse. I got tough skin. I came from the trenches. I'm ready to walk through this darkness with you. And then my favorite thing is whenever they're like, I'm good. I don't need you. And that's what I do. I only actually work with people for 2 months. I do have a year. I'd had one girl. She was on her kitchen floor, and she was vegan, and she literally had a pallet on her kitchen floor, and she would get up and she would go to the kitchen, and then she would come back to the pallet, and she would get up and go to the bathroom and come back to the pallet. And that's all she did for, I think, about a month and a half. And finally, her boyfriend handed her a video of me, and she contacted me, and she was like, I got to work with you. You know, what do I do? I don't care. What do I do? And so I worked with her for 2 months, and she came back to life and all of this stuff. And she's actually brilliant. And she got to the end of the 2 months, and she was like, this isn't enough. Now I'm healed. Now I want to take over the world. And I was like, okay. She goes, I want to hire you for a year. And so I was like, okay. So we had a year contract, a year container, and I won't cry. She just got last year, she just got a 6-figure income job at a corporate facility doing their marketing, and she just bought her first house, and she broke up with that boyfriend, but she's doing great, like on her own. You know, she's got her own life, and to know that I could take somebody from the kitchen floor to that, it's priceless. I mean, pinch me. There's nothing better.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely amazing. And another very important piece of the puzzle is I think we all get out of it and we're like, yes, I'm taking over the world. I think everybody does. And harnessing that energy and putting it somewhere is really hard. And it's another thing I feel like is overlooked. You get to that spot where you're like, I feel great. Now what? I don't know what to do. And we actually had another guest a couple weeks ago, Dr. Eric Rogers. I don't know if you know him. He suffered from depression, and he actually talked about that. He's like, I'm feeling so great, and I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to live my life feeling this way. It's a conversation that it doesn't get. I don't hear it very often. I guess people are having it, but I don't hear it very often. It's what to do next. So do you help them with that as part of your 2-month process?
Yeah, she definitely had me step up my game to have a year container all of a sudden. And I actually had 2 other clients that heard about it, and they joined too. So I had 2 other clients do a year contract, and we were able to go into so much more detail into because all the modalities and all the techniques that I learned in my master's in clinical counseling is pointless when your client's eyes are glassed over and they can't hear what you're saying. It's just like going in one ear and out the other. And then once you get their brain cleared of the inflammation, then they're ready to do the work. Then they're ready to really dive into, this mother wound or this father wound or whatever. And so we were able to really address some of those things that would be the typical like talk therapy, because we had that foundation, that baseline of I feel good. And what I found is that, and I found this for myself also, nobody ever taught me how to function as a well person. For 40 years, I was batshit crazy. And that's what I knew. I knew those coping techniques. I knew those cycles, but all of a sudden I don't hate everybody and I don't think everybody hates me. Like, what is this world? So it is kind of like learning a new language of how to function in society as a well person.
I could not agree more. I know I was probably sick at the age of 13, and then I wake up at the age of 40. That's a large space of time that I didn't learn new things. I didn't learn how to adult whatsoever. I mean, I was adulting because I had to, but I didn't really know how to. And I still feel behind on a lot of things. So good. Thanks you.
Yeah.
Thank you for validating that. I don't want to sit here and talk about me, but I mean, what you're saying is definitely resonating. And I really love this approach that you have, where we're not just going to talk about food, but we know, and I know from experience that you're going to change some things in your diet and some stuff is going to bubble up and we're going to address those things. And we're just going to, so it's, it's not like it doesn't sound like you're like doing this targeted thing. It's really, you're walking with these people through their journey.
Everybody's different. And if I sit there and I think about this, they have been told that they do not fit in the cookie cutter their whole life. And so I'm going to come with my own cookie cutter and be like, hey, you gotta fit into this. No, I'm going to shape the whole program around you, because I'm wasting my time and my breath if I'm sitting here talking about something that, number one, doesn't affect you, or number two, you've already mastered. Because I got to tell you, mentally ill people are brilliant. I mean, absolutely next level. The things that you think about the senses. Like if you lose your sense of sight, you heighten your sense of touch or your sense of smell or whatever. So people who are mentally ill have actually heightened their senses in their brain, and they are actually brilliant. They just need to find that center of brilliance and really pull on that and not be pulled down by all the things that they can't do.
I don't know. I might be the opposite of that, but I'll let you speak for all of your clients. I might not fit in the category.
Oh, give me 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes. I'll show you your center of brilliance. I will show you.
Oh, I love that center of brilliance. That's
that
beautiful.
was actually what I called my business at the beginning. My if you go to my very first YouTube video, it says, "Welcome to Center of Brilliance," because everyone has a center of brilliance. But then I changed the brand to Inner Clarity System, because everybody has that inner clarity, that inner knowing that's guiding them and navigating through them through this life.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of those names are great names. Maybe you should just keep using both.
I like it.
I think Natalie had some more questions.
I do have I have a couple of questions. So I'm trying to segue into this. Speaking of not being brilliant. So how, I guess, so if I came to you and I'm just moody, or, I've been diagnosed, I'm bipolar now, how do you decide what kind of therapeutic menu, if you will, that you are giving to me? And I'm asking this question because I've been hearing a lot of talk about how the carnivore diet / ketovore diet, keto diet, is different for someone trying to just lose weight than maybe it is for someone trying to, address their mental illness. Is that something you found, where maybe there's higher fat, there's less protein, there's more protein, there's no fat? How do you do that?
This sounds like I'm cheating, but I'm not. But maybe I am. I believe that we are all sentient beings, and that all of the answers are within each individual. And so all I have to do is to extract those answers out of my client. All I have to do is talk to them, get them in because I have to calm their central nervous system to a place where they can be able to decipher thoughts, and not, thinking, oh, well, Dr. Baker says this, Dr. Chafee says this, Steak and Butter Gal says that, and blah, blah, blah. Like, what do you say? What does your body say? What does your gut say? What does your soul say? And we're doing an experiment. So we're just playing. We're just going to see how this works. And what do you think are foods that your body thrives on? You'll be shocked. what they come up with. And they come up with a better plan than I ever could have. And I think it's also very important to recognize that people have to take it at their own pace and at the pace of their central nervous system. If their central nervous system is kicking and screaming and telling them that they are going to have symptoms and that they are going to die, it's a self-proclaiming prophecy. They are going to have symptoms and they are going to suffer. So we make it at the pace of their central nervous system. And what's a good list for you? And then I let them write it. And it has been so successful because I'm not sitting here going, well, you really need to weigh and you need to have, your macros be this and you have to actually have this and blah, blah, blah. And you need to eat in a window and you need to bleh. We'll get there later if you really want to. And usually they're so sane by that point and so capable, they can go do it on their own. They can go do a 3-day fast if they want to. They could do whatever they want. But I'm just getting them out of the trenches.
And then with gut health, I know I've emailed you lots of times about this yogurt. Do you want to talk about that? I know you're a big, I don't know if you're an advocate for it. That might be a strong word, but I know I always reach out to you. Now, should I try this? I don't know. Can you talk about that?
100%.
Oh,
100%.
okay.
I thought I had won the Carnivore Olympics in that I had, been carnivore for 5 years and 5+ years. And I had resolved multiple sclerosis and bipolar disorder. And we didn't even talk about it, but I lost 120 pounds. I thought I'd done all these things. And then I went and ate all that honey, went into psychosis. And then what happened right after that, I started eating meat right away. I stopped the honey, started getting back to the meat, and I got out of the psychosis. And then I got a UTI from all the honey because I ate copious amounts of honey. I'm not trying to pretend like I just drizzled a little, but I ate so much honey because my brain's broke, I do stupid things. And so I caused my body that had been perfectly clean and hadn't had any sugar. And then all of a sudden it had all this honey and then it had to detox it. And I got a full-blown urinary tract infection that turned into and backed up into a full-blown kidney infection. And so I had to go to the ER twice with the UTI and the kidney infection. And I got put on 2 rounds of antibiotics. And I have had this beautiful gut biome that I've been cultivating and working on for 5 years. And then I wiped it out. And then I got depression. And I was like, what? I'm eating only meat. What else do I do? I'm drinking only water. What do I do when I'm already perfect? What? There's no where else to go. And then, of course, God put right in my path this video. It was by Dr. Eric Berg interviewing Dr. William Davis about L-reuteri yogurt. And I knew that's what I needed to do. I had wiped out my gut biome. I needed to rebuild it. And so I bought all the things to make the yogurt. I bought a yogurt maker. I made the L-reuteri yogurt. 5 days, my depression was gone. 5 days of eating 6 ounces a day of this L-reuteri yogurt. And now I tell it to my clients too. And I found that it helps them with their cravings better. If I can start them on carnivore and you can even do, if they're allergic to dairy, you can do coconut milk instead of the regular dairy. And there's something there, you could go down the rabbit hole with L-reuteri, but Dr. William Davis gives you all the information. But I've found that it's helped me and many of my clients.
Yeah, I'm always wondering, I also had a really bad gut before I started. I've been as clean as you can get, well, in my world, for 2 years. And I still wonder sometimes, wonder if there's just a little something, if I could turbo boost that gut a little bit more. And I don't see lots of signs, but every once in a while I'm like, I wonder if that could be better, and I don't know exactly what that is, but I always wonder. And I am just so afraid that I'm going to mess up a batch because I am not loving the kitchen. I don't love the kitchen. I don't like to do all that stuff. And so, yeah.
That's why I was raw. I was raw for 3.5 years because I hate cooking. I hate dishes. I hate meal planning. I don't like it at all. That's just me. Like, that's just part of my genetic makeup. And so, yeah, the Alruterite, making the yogurt, was just like, what? But I do it once a week and that's it.
And then you don't think that the dairy bothers you? Does it bother you at all? Or do you do it with the coconut milk?
I would like to do it with coconut milk personally. I haven't yet, just because this is what I learned, and so I'll have to learn a new thing. I think I'll eventually do the coconut milk. The only thing that I noticed is that I had a couple of farts in the morning. And that was really the only thing that I noticed. And the benefit, like, far outweighed anything. And it actually, I have many clients that it actually, like, curbs their craving, because their bad bacteria are not fed, the good bacteria are, and so there's more, like, calmness in their gut.
Now, what about Candida? Is that a helpful tool for Candida? I have a friend that just can't seem to get her Candida under control, and I was like, I wonder if that would work for her.
That's way over my head. But I have seen videos that Dr. William Davis has done and studies that he's done. There's tons of great information out there about that.
I figured there was. I just thought I would see if
No,
maybe had
see
any
if I had
clients
experience.
that,
Yeah.
see if any clients were like, oh yeah, I did that. Now, also, okay, we're going to go back to your coaching. I've enough about my needs and the L-Reuteri, because I'm going to do it. I know I'm going to do it. Do you offer, is there anything else that goes with your coaching? Is there, like, try to get out and walk, get some sun. Is there any other therapies that you use rather than just diet?
It depends on the client. If they are ready for more, I'm always pushing more. Because I want them to get more bang for their buck. You know what I mean? Like, we got 2 months, like, let's go all in. But if they are, like, struggling to survive each day, then I am not going to put more pressure on them. But if I can tell they're hungry for more, I'm like, have you ever heard of grounding? Have you ever heard of getting the morning sunrise in your eyes? Have you ever heard of just sitting and listening to the birds? Have you ever heard of meditation? Hey, let's meditate together. Hey, let's talk about what came up in your meditation. So yeah, I go, if they're ready. Like, I just had this one client in the UK, and I met with him, and he was like, do you talk to all your clients about all this stuff? And I'm like, nope. I'm like, you tapped into way more of me because you were ready. And he was like, this is so amazing. So I go as deep as they're ready to go.
So you're all kinds of normal in the beginning, and then you go all woo woo after this. You're at, like, day 37, and then it all starts coming out.
If it's in them. If it's not in them, I am not going to break their brain. I am not. That is not my job.
The job is to heal the brain, not to break the brain. That's okay. We'll go with that. Well, I can't believe our time is already running short. So I'm just feeling wonderful about meeting you. I'm so glad that Natalie found you and invited you to be on the show. I see a blossoming new friendship happening here, because I'm also now, I'm going to talk about myself again. I'm sorry. I really don't normally do this,
Robin,
but I'm
hey,
going to.
let me help you. Hey, Robin, could you tell me a little bit more about you?
Sure. I was on antibiotics for 3 months last year, and I have just not been right. And I didn't put it all together until you guys just had this conversation. So I may be having some more questions. I'm definitely going to watch that video that you suggested. So I wrote it down, and I'll put it in the show notes so other people can watch that video as well. So
Send me a message if you can't find that exact video, because that video it's just really good. It just kind of sums it up.
it's the one.
Then you can go down the Dr. William Davis rabbit hole, because
Yeah,
there's
and I
a
actually
beautiful
long
rabbit hole.
time ago had been down the rabbit hole, and then I was like, I'm not making yogurt for myself, and so I backed off. But now I feel like it might be important. So, okay, I'll open that can of worms again, or jar of bacteria. I don't know.
Maybe we can do it together. Maybe we can both be like, okay, we made our,
And we can share our morning fart stories. That'll be fun.
you know, gals, we don't get the gas anymore. And so that's not something I'm ready to invite back into my life.
It was shocking. I was so funny. My first morning, I was like, I got out of bed and I farted, and I was like, what? What was that? I haven't farted in like 5 years.
You could be like my dog, where she farts and then it scares her and she runs to a different room.
There we go.
I love that we're having this conversation.
I know.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, somehow it always turns to pooey or gas on here. So, it's food.
All right. So because we're winding down, I want to ask you where people can find you, connect with you, all of that stuff. So we're sure to have that in our notes as well.
Well, I love for people to connect with me, but I don't want people to be upset when they find out how much it is to work with me. That's why I do so much for free. I have, YouTube, I have Instagram, I have Facebook. And so anywhere, basically just go to emilypenton.com. emilypenton.com, and you'll be able to connect with me. You can even send me an email if you want to. But to work with me, because the work that I do is so like, I gotta like pull my sleeves up and I gotta like dig in and I gotta get cussed at. And I work with the work I do is really intensive. I don't want people to be like, I'm gonna just, pay $30 and have Emily. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. But I will do an initial session. It's normally $111, but I'll do an initial session, especially if they say they're from this interview. I'll do that for $55. And then to work with me for 2 months, it's $6,500. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's basically like getting a therapist in your pocket.
It's not ridiculous. First of all, what you're doing is a huge value to everyone. Like, it's not just that person, it's all of the people that they touch in their lives. So there's that's worth a lot. And you're going from someone who is in the thick of they're in the thick of a major situation, and in 45 days they're quote unquote normal, let's say.
Yeah, I even had a client who his mother hired me, and our sessions were while he was in prison on the phone. So I actually even will talk to your loved ones in prison. I'll talk to them right out of the psych ward. I will be accessible. My commitment is I will respond within 24 to 48 hours. And that has been really, really powerful to be able to let them know that somebody hears them, because a lot of times they have therapists and doctors and all the professionals that don't have time for them or don't hear them. And so I'm able to go through, like, my favorite is whenever I have clients who they'll text me a meme and they're like, this is how I feel today. And I'm like, yes. I'm like, thank you for expressing that, I want people to know that I'm accessible. But for the nitty gritty, it costs. It costs, but I'm free.
And well, it should. I don't think that's a concern at all. But I am happy that on the side you also reach out to other people.
Oh, yeah.
You're not in a hole somewhere. You're spreading it out. These messages are just so important. So I'm very thankful for that you joined us today, and I think we just like barely scratched the surface here. So,
well, and I think it's important for them to know that even whenever they feel like they're at the bottom of the barrel and that their loved one is going to die, they're going to die from, alcoholism or drug addiction or, suicidal ideation, that call me, like there's hope. There's hope.
I'm writing hope down. The science of hope. That's a Dr. Georgia Eeg thing. So I think we all feel that way. That's really where us starting these conversations came from, is that feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. And if we can share these stories, somebody will hear it and know that they can also turn it around for themselves. So thank you for tying it all up for us here at the end.
No problem.
Go
Thank
ahead,
you
Natalie.
guys. Thank you guys so much for this.
Don't
This
go,
was awesome.
Don't go yet. Natalie's got something for you.
Because we do have one question that we like to ask all of our guests, and I will shoot this question to you. What is the key insight that you would want to share to help others write their keto biography?
Super simple. You're not broken. You're brilliant. And the more that you can find that, and the more that you can recognize the truth of that, and you might have to remind yourself every single day. I'm 6 years into this, and I still told myself this morning, Emily, you're not broken. You're brilliant. So that's what I would say to you. You are absolutely not broken. You're not behind. You haven't got it all wrong. You're actually brilliant. And the best is yet to come.
I think everybody needs to hear that, don't you?
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it. That's the perfect way to end. On behalf of Robin Dobbins, our most wonderful guest, Emily Penton, and myself, thank you for hearing our keto biography.